Beloved, what we thought was important, what we have worked for, the achievement of the American dream turns out to be the co-optation of our money, our time, our talent to support empire. We had not realized the extent to which we have been co-opted so to sacrifice ourselves and those whom we love to enrich a few at the expense and the lives of many. But our scripture today and our lives in this pandemic are instructional and make this awful truth clear. Please, will you pray with me? Oh God, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts together be acceptable to you, oh God, my rock and my redeemer. Beloved, we have collaborated and colluded against even those whom we love, so to receive something that was never intended for us and would not even be allowed to us. We've been seduced by the false God we now understand to be the apex of white supremacy, of which homophobia, transphobia, misogyny, classism, racism are the outcomes. All of us, every one of us, have done this. Given that this is true, and I believe that we all agree on this now, I've been wondering what we're supposed to do now with our time and energy, especially in this pandemic time, especially in this time when we're coming to realize that we've been holding our breath, waiting on everything, doing nothing and everything while we wait until things go back to normal. A more benign version maybe of Make America Great Again, or maybe not more benign. It's beginning to be clear that we're not going back to normal in September, as has been true in August and July and May and April and March. No matter what phase we are in, as being decided by the best public servants and scientists, that in October and November, we're not going back to the way it was, and maybe never again. It's so clear to us right now. We've weathered 3.5 years of the perfect manifestation of what empire matures into: narcissism, family dysfunction, the use of others' lives and livelihoods for the fragile, sick ego of one or a few who, though they have everything material that empire promised, have achieved the pinnacle of power that empire promises, everything that could be hoped for. They are neither loved nor are they free. We, especially in this time, see the rot of empire. And it turns out, though we were trained for it, it turns out that empire is not what we need or even what we want ultimately. It turns out that what we want ultimately is love, connection, freedom, beauty, and ease, these the pinnacles of human and divine existence. It may be disappointing news to us, we who were raised on the cocaine and the crack of empire. We have such a hard time not jonesing for what empire has spent billions of advertising dollars so to pimp us for. It's hard to turn ourselves to what may seem so much less exciting. That is love, connection, freedom, beauty, and ease. But this is what being born again means, as Ben says. This is what following our longing brings to us, as Ash taught us last week. The deep and wildly joyful experience of love, connection, freedom, beauty, and ease, the pinnacle of humanity in divine presence. And since we're giving up then the goals of empire, then what is the purpose of our living? To what shall we give our energy? What will achievement look like? And for what shall we aim? What will we do with what we've already achieved, accumulated, amassed while we're in the middle of our seduction? What is the new standard for being the best, the richest? What will get us the A or the admiration that we can't stop longing for? Or is it just me who longs for admiration or the A? Well, it's not like empire's going to go away. And even if there comes an administration whose policies and practices are to care for the poor and feed the hungry, clothe the naked, and empty the prison, empire is not going to go away. Even if Kamala Harris is elected the first woman of color, Black, Jamaican, South Asian to be in the vice presidency, it's not going to go away. Our time, then our life will be taken up still with Judaism and Jesus and Christianity's true vocation of loving God with our whole hearts and loving our neighbors as ourselves, which will bring us the love, connection, freedom, beauty, and ease that we ultimately long for. Our trajectory then of our lives will change. Our understanding of the time it will take for love, connection, freedom, beauty, and ease to be the rule of earth, we now understand to be the work of generations. The work of the generations before us. John Lewis and Fannie Lou Hamer started out as 20-year-olds and grew into giants in our hearts and have brought a new way to bring about love, connection, freedom, beauty, and ease. What we do today may not have the instant results and gratification that we have come to expect from our digital games or from our investments in the stock market. Love, connection, freedom, beauty, and ease sometimes lies hidden in the soil of our psyches, the soil of our congregations, our neighborhoods, and our nations. Our work is to scratch the soil of our souls, to find the seed and to nurture it into life, to nurture it into flower, to nurture it for generations to come. Our work may be more modest than grandiose. The Hebrew people had become a great people, and the king of Egypt, worried that they would become too numerous, would join their enemies. And so they raised up a class of overseers to enslave them, to oppress them. You see how systemic slavery is, how systemic oppression is. And used their labor to build fortresses and cities. A great system of empires of oppression that had nothing to do with the individual characters of the Hebrew people, but had to do with the enslavement of all of them on behalf of an empire kingdom. They were impoverished on purpose for their labor and the sake of empire. The Hebrew people were killed starting with their youngest. The king instructed midwives to kill the boy babies as soon as they were born. And when the midwives refused, midwives who may have been Hebrew or Egyptian, but midwives to the Hebrews, when they refused to betray the Hebrew boys, the king instructed all Egyptians to throw baby boys into the crocodile-infested Nile River. It's unthinkable And yet this is what empire does. We recognize this murder and mayhem, and we also recognize the simple acts of love, connection, freedom, beauty, and ease of those who made sure that one little boy, or maybe many, but we know of one, Moses, was saved. This one boy was conceived in love of one man and one woman. They in their love made a human. This little human was protected by a mother and guarded by a daughter. And though made a token by the daughter of Pharaoh, for the daughter of Pharaoh did not save all of them, she saved one of them. And this little boy was saved in his continuity to his culture and people by a trick of sister and mother. These actions germinated by a people allowing the nurture of a baby who grew up to be a man who would free them and lead them into liberation, an imperfect man who stuttered like Braden the teenager in New Hampshire, and also like our Democratic nominee, Joe Biden. All of these combined simple and large actions set freedom in motion, a freedom that would not be realized for generations, yet a freedom. In modern Judaism, as well as ancient, in February, there's a festival called Tu B'Shvat, and it is the new year of the tree. And it's the season and the time in which Jews plant trees. And the liturgical work that goes along with Tu B'Shvat, this beautiful anniversary of the new year of the tree, is built upon the idea that one will plant what one may not ever come to see. This is the work of our generation, to be as free as we can and to set in motion what will free our children, our congregation, our neighbors, our nation. In the Talmud, there's this. Once the sage Honai was walking along a road and he saw an old man planting a tree. He asked him, how many years will it require for this tree to give forth fruit? And the old man answered, it would require 70 years. Are you so healthy a man that you expect to live to see the length of time and eat of this tree's fruit? And the man answered, I have found a fruitful world because my forebears planted it for me, and so will I do for my children. This is what we are doing. This is the standard of our moral lives. All we who have been drawn out of the water of our mother's wombs, out of the Nile, those of us who have been baptized in water, those of us who were brought against our will across the water, all of us who have been drawn from water will set in motion the next generation's freedom to love, to connect, to be free, to be at ease, to live in beauty. The beauty I see in you, my beloved congregation. You who love one another, you who see one another, and you who will raise each other's children, who will raise each other's children, who will raise each other's children from generations to come. May we be free. May we be loved. May we be connected. May we live in beauty, and may we be at ease. Amen.